Her length, she was 75 percentile, which means she's a little tall girl. So she had a perfect weight and a perfect length. When Catalina died on 4/19/17 at the hands of her mother's boyfriend, Catalina was in the 5th percentile of weight. When she died at the hands of her mother's boyfriend, of body length. So instead of growing like your children and mine, she shrank. And she did that because she was neglected and because she was abused by a defendant that we will be very soon bringing to trial. The cause of death was blunt force to the abdominal section. This case kind of became like a cold case at the office. For some reason, it didn't go anywhere until one day, one of my ADAs from the CPS court, this child, brought it to my attention. And it made such an impression on me that I personally took the lead in the case. And I personally became very much involved in investigating the case. I personally became, and I promised myself, to nobody else, that I would pursue this case till the end. And I'm still working on it. And it's made such an impression on me that to this day, I got to tell you, this is my wallet, and this is her picture that I carry with me in my wallet because I don't want to forget her. And that's the reason that we're here. We don't want to forget Catalina. We don't want to forget other children like Catalina. So I am very, very happy to see such a large crowd to be here this afternoon to honor those victims that we have lost through child abuse and through neglect. Very, very critical person in the prosecution of the case. The outcry witnesses. Next, we have the law enforcement to my right here, who dedicate their time and their effort and their expertise to investigating the cases, because they're very unique cases. They're very unique cases, and that's why we have the child abuse unit. It's not about adults, it's about children. You can't work them, you cannot investigate them, you can't prosecute them like you do an adult case. So we recognize today the outcry witnesses and the law enforcement. We recognize today, I ask you to join with me in recognizing the Saenz nurses at the hospitals that conduct their examinations of these children for corroborating evidence, because it's very difficult for a jury to believe only what a 7-year-old little boy or little girl is saying. So the work of the Saenz nurses needs to be recognized. They're the silent heroes. They do their work behind, private curtains and whatnot, but what they do is very, very important and very critical to our investigation and to our prosecution. We recognize Maggie's house, Ana de la Cruz's director, the forensic interviewers that do an awesome job. If it weren't for the forensic interviewers, those children would not be able to outcry, wouldn't be able to articulate what happened to them. And if they can't do that, we don't have a case. So the forensic interviewers are very, very critical to the chain and to the investigation and prosecution of these cases. To the CASA volunteers, court-appointed special advocates who carry forth the special interest of the child. If you look at an indictment in court, it's got initials, only initials because of confidentiality. CASA volunteers bring those initials to life. They add a face, they add a person, a human being to those initials. So we recognize CASA volunteers. We recognize BACA volunteers, Bicycles Against Child Abuse, who show up in court and who, by showing up, the 7 or the 8-year-old knows that somebody's there to help them, that somebody's there to support them, that somebody there believes them. And it's the BACA volunteers. So thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for for the work that you do. Again, silent heroes. We recognize prosecutors who at the end of the day take all the work from all of these people and present the trial, go to court, and present the case to the jury. Prosecutors wouldn't be able to do what they do without everybody else in the team coming together and doing their job. So the prosecutors, thank you very much. We thank those jurors that returned the verdicts of guilty. Those jurors that show the courage, to believe that child and come back with the right verdict. And because of their verdict, we are able to send these perpetrators and remove them from our community. So thank you to those jurors. And most importantly, thank you to the victims. The victims who are children, who are defenseless, who look up to us as adults for protection, for support, and to know that we believe them. So we thank the victims for coming forth and going through what they have to go through to come into court, to sit in a witness stand in front of people they don't know, to have a judge up there, somebody with a gun sitting next to them. It's really intense for an adult to do that. Imagine now a 7-year-old, 8-year-old. It's an awesome job that they do, so we recognize them. So we're here to remember, and we're here to recognize, and we're here to recommit. It seems like only yesterday I stood back there last year as we had this same program. And as I looked around, I said, when is this going to end? The Christian person in me that's supposed to have hope and faith said, someday it'll end. The realist in me and the pessimist in me said, it'll never end. It'll never end. And maybe it'll never end. But that does not mean that we will give up. Colonel McRaven, or Admiral McRaven, was talking to a group of parents upon graduation from the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs is a highly elite group from the Navy. Those are the gentlemen that took care of bin Laden. And he's talking about how to become a Navy SEAL, it is super strenuous. With all due respect to the Marines, even more strenuous than that. I mean, they've got to go through mind-bending exercises, body torturing exercises, just to make it, to graduate and become a Navy SEAL. And he talked about one particular exercise where they're in the mud, in mud flaps for hours and hours, bone shattering, cold, all night, in the dark. That's one of the exercises. And he talks about other exercises, how they're so demanding. He said, at any time, any of those prospective Navy SEALs to get out of the program, all they have to do, they've got a bell right in the middle of the ground, of the fields. He says, if you want to get out of this program, because you can't take it anymore, all you have to do is go up there and ring that bell. To this day, that bell has never been rung. So I stand before you and ask you to recommit, to repromise, to repledge, to re-energize that we will never give up. That I, for one, Luis Saenz, will never ring the bell. And I want each and every one of you to say with me, we will never ring the bell. We will never ring the bell. I didn't hear anything. We will never ring the bell. One more time. We will never ring the bell. Thank you.
And as Mr. Saenz said, we need to recommit, and we need to send a message loud and clear. There is zero tolerance for child abuse in this community. And if anyone dares, they will face justice. They will be prosecuted to the extent of the law. I can't think of anything worse than robbing a child of their innocence and inflicting pain on a defenseless being. We all have circles of influence and circles of impact, and it's up to us to make sure that this conversation is at the forefront of our conversations. We need to continue to educate people so that we can prevent child abuse. And for those cases where it's already happening, we need to do everything we can in our power to intervene and to help these victims get the help that they need, help to heal and help to recover. It is crucial that these child victims are able to heal that pain. Psychologists and sociologists for many years have studied the impact of pain on individuals and communities. And we have probably heard that hurt people hurt people. In many cases, these child abuse offenders were themselves abused as children. And without intervention efforts, without someone to help them recover and go through that pain, many times they grow up